Good morning. I'm making this video as a response to a YouTuber called Dima the Show. I've been casually following him for a while now, and while this video will be mostly critical, I do find the dude interesting, and none of this critique is meant to come across overly harsh. While we may have some disagreements politically, from what I've seen, he seems to be a genuinely cool dude. I wouldn't bother making this video if I thought this guy was a lost cause, and while I don't have any delusions I'm going to be able to change his mind or anybody in his audience's mind that may come across this video, I figure at the very least I may be able to help them be a bit more open-minded to some perspectives they may not have considered. This video is going to be a bit different than my last one. It's not an organized essay, it's just going point by point on disagreements I've had with his most recent video. So Dima basically made a response video to another YouTuber called Shoe on Head. So this is basically a response video to a response video. Since Dima does response videos, I'm assuming he doesn't mind me clipping his video a bit in my own. I'm not intending to leave out any context, so if I do, it's because I'm an idiot and it's not some kind of malicious attempt. I recommend watching his video to see the full context if you want. Dima starts off the video with an introduction describing how he views the whole male loneliness epidemic. There's a lot here I disagree with about the way he views politics, so I guess we'll get started. I want to start by caveating that I despise Tate and Sneeko, and I'm not really in the demographic he's talking about. But what I find odd about this entire discourse in the beginning of the video is, why does the onus always fall on the men?
Built to withstand. Now, I do think it is reductive to be like, where the world is out to get men today. That's what a lot of these, male influencers sort of stand rhetorically. No, I think a big part of it is men are being shaped by shitty spaces and are actively becoming people that many others don't want to interact with.
They are actively becoming people that many others don't want to interact with. This cuts both ways, doesn't it? Yeah, the men are becoming people that women, and I guess guys like you, as you go on to say, don't want to interact with, but by definition that also means that women, and I guess guys like you, are becoming people that these men don't want to interact with, right? Why does society and the culture also expect men to always submit and conform to the idealized version that women tend to want? I mean, you are a guy and you seem to be comfortable navigating and coexisting, but you have to admit that it seems more and more of these guys in general are either unsuccessfully assimilating into a female-curated world, or their nature prevents them from coexisting the way that you can. It seems like there needs to be some sort of compromise on how the sexes interact with and respect each other. While I do think there needs to be some work done to get men to a place where they're willing to compromise and cooperate, from what I'm seeing as an outsider, aka a gay man, it seems like way more work has to be done with women to get them into a position to compromise on not getting everything that they want. And it seems like such an insurmountable problem that at this point, sometimes I feel like we shouldn't even waste our time trying to solve the problem. Because short of draconian political action taking against women, it seems insolvable. I also wanted to address the legit point you made regarding solving the gap of male friendships. To summarize, you say that women tend to do a better job at forming lasting friendships and having emotional support, while men tend to use women to help them navigate joining social circles and use women in their lives as emotional support. As a gay man, I find this funny, but whatever, I won't go into the complexity. The point that I wanted to make is I feel like you're missing that this can only be organically resolved if we reinstate male-only spaces where men have control over how they function without women's approval or involvement. The reason these Tate, Sneeko, or even Jordan Peterson type spaces are blowing up amongst idiot male Zoomers is because they have legit become one of the only places that women are gatekept and they have no influence. These other spaces that historically have been used in developing men's long-term friendship between other men, like tabletop role-playing games, video games, sports, clubs, camping, Boy Scouts, fraternities, whatever, have all been infiltrated by HR ladies, which is fine in theory, but what they don't realize is that they are forcing female-coded conflict resolution and rules into these spaces so younger women are more comfortable in the space. But these artificial restrictions don't allow men to express themselves naturally to their other male future friends, so that the relationships they form end up being very artificial. And that's the reason they don't last long term, because any form of hardship breaks them. Hashtag not all male spaces historically operated the same way. For example, social rules in male gaming circles would obviously be different than in male sports teams, because all men aren't the same. But men would choose places they naturally fit, and like-minded groups would gather and socialize and form friendships. But if the HR ladies are controlling all male-to-male interactions in these spaces, it's an unfortunate side effect that these idiots see these Tate/Sneeko spaces being more aligned to how they can express themselves naturally, and they gravitate there. Then cue the political brainwashing and teaching misogyny by bad actors, as opposed to the more activity-focused bonding that would occur historically.
I can't get behind that. This is what the Democrats did with immigration in this cycle, Shu. I'm talking to you directly. This is what the Democrats did with immigration in this cycle. They ratcheted to the right to try to listen to what, they assumed, their studies showed them that the people wanted. Look, I 10 toes down, the voters were wrong about immigration. Yes, they were lied to and duped to think that immigration is some massive problem that's destroying the American working class. That is a manufactured lie by right-wing media.
I'm not speaking for Shu, obviously, and she can respond for herself if she wants. But this point here is the primary reason I wanted to make this response video, because I think it highlights what you misunderstand about how politics and power works in reality. You say the voters were wrong about immigration. I'm not taking a stand because I think it's irrelevant and I don't really care, but you can literally substitute immigration with whatever pet issue you prefer for this analysis. Realistically, we live in a democracy. That's how politics works. I too hate democracy, but that is a system our idiot forebears created. Do you want to be right or do you want to win? This mentality that a lot of leftists have, that they need to debate or convince people that they are wrong, is what makes them always come across as elitist and out of touch. Think about it this way. Imagine some hillbilly is complaining about some alligators attacking them when they go out to take a dump in their outhouse. It is not helpful for some New York banker to try to tell the hillbilly how he is wrong about the alligator and how it's endangered or something that conforms to his ideology. Both because it comes across really bad for somebody who is privileged to be talking down to somebody less privileged, and because this idiot isn't going to care about your ideology. He just wants his life to be better and to stop having to worry about the alligator. Now, this idiot might be asking you to do something that is against your ideology or that you don't want to do. That is fine. There is no point in arguing or debating with him. He might be saying something like, kill the alligator, and you don't want to kill it because it's endangered or whatever. But your job as a leader and as a person who is in power or desires power is to put on your listening ears, sift through everything that he is saying to figure out what the actual problem is, acknowledge the problem he is having and his feelings, and then come up with a solution to his problem that fits into your ideology. For example, maybe the leftist way to solve this problem is to send in exterminators to capture the alligators in the community and then ship them off to a wildlife preserve where you can release them. Do not explain what you're going to do to the simpletons. Just say, yeah, I agree, this is a problem, and I'm going to fix it for you. And then solve their problem. Trying to explain complicated stuff to stupid people, or worse, convince them that they're wrong, is completely idiotic.
Okay? And this is who men are listening to right now. Okay? Nobody should be listening to Asmongold. Okay?
So this leads into the whole Asmongold thing. You're basically saying the left shouldn't be listening to people like Asmongold, which is completely the wrong take, and still not understanding why the neolibs lost in the last election. Asmongold is not Ben Shapiro. Admittedly, I'm not an Asmongold listener, but from the clips that I see of him, it's not like has these like fundamental right-wing principles. Joe Rogan is the same way. I'm pretty sure I remember listening to a clip of Asmongold saying he wants to vote Democrat, but he can't because of some reason or another. I don't remember. Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard. He doesn't have any principles. He just goes off vibes. When somebody like Asmongold or Joe Rogan bring up a problem they have, the leftists ought to be listening to what they are having issues with and directly addressing and solving their problems through the lens of their like leftist ideology, because that will in turn build trust with them and get them to be willing to support you in the future.
Best source.
But frankly, Shu, that is kinda mainstream male thought today. Okay? For a lot of men, even if it's 50% of men and the other 50% are woke, which is just not true, that's still a fuck ton of men. I don't know if the answer is we need to listen.
Again, Shu can speak for herself, but if I may be so bold as to interpret her, when she's saying listen to what men want, she was not saying ask them for their policy solutions and implementations like you're interpreting. She's not asking you to go up to the average Tate Zoomer and ask him for his complicated plan on high-level geopolitics or monetary policy. That is the policy wonk's jobs. She is saying you need to listen to what problems they are having in their lives and address them on their terms without telling them how they are wrong. On a messaging front, don't criticize their stupid solutions. Acknowledge their problem is real and actually solve it your own way. Don't tell them to think differently. They will naturally start thinking differently when the problem is solved. So going back to the example, you don't have to shoot the alligator as they suggest. You just have to stop it from annoying them, which is what they actually cared about. As I explained earlier, I hate Andrew Tate, but I can see that he is appealing to a fundamental problem in society. I'm not a leftist, but I have my own anarchist ideas on how to solve these problems without needing to destroy all romance in relationships or encouraging pickup artists, fuck the women mentality that Tate's solution cause. But I'm not going to Tate or his audience to try to convince them they're wrong, nor am I writing off their issues. As a corollary to this point, I think it's probably important to consider the whole in-group, out-group dynamic I see a lot of leftists self-sabotaging about. Leftists need to ask themselves, who is the out-group? Ideally, you don't have an out-group, but if for whatever reason you feel like you need to choose a particular group that is going to have their lives made worse in order to make the in-group lives better because of limited resources or whatever, you need to select your targets tactically. It's one thing to marginalize the gays or trans people or something. I'm gay. I obviously don't want that. But demographically, maybe you can make an argument where that can make sense. It's another thing entirely to marginalize a demographically more important group like straight people, white people, men, or women. That is just stupid. Again, I too hate democracy, but you have to deal with reality. I think Asmongold is winnable personally, but if for some reason he does need to be outgrouped, and you need a signal that his life is going to be more miserable after you take power, and or you have no intentions of solving his problems, or you're signaling that you want to exasperate them, you need to do it in a way that targets him for being rich or being a member of a particular city or state that is politically irrelevant. I don't know anything about Asmongold personally, so I don't know if that applies to him or not. But do not in any way target him for being a straight white man or whatever, because that is a losing strategy. If he has an issue that affects him because he's rich or a member of a particularly irrelevant city or whatever, okay, maybe you can ignore that problem or try to downplay it. It's still a waste of time to debate it, but I digress. But if he is highlighting the problem that he's experiencing because he is a straight guy, that a ton of other straight guys are also experiencing, that should be a problem you are trying to fix.
Come on, Shu. Like, for a lot of women, they do expect to have to do much of the heavy lifting when it comes to the children, to child rearing, right? And I don't think that is an inaccurate inkling to have. And I mean, like, ruined your body, I don't know about that, but childbirth can be incredibly difficult. Pregnancy can be incredibly difficult.
Okay, so I skipped the fart fetish stuff you bring up and a large portion of your video because I have no comment on that section. But I wanted to highlight that you're missing the point she was bringing up regarding the men versus women wanting to have children. So basically, society is stating that it's men who want to be eternal man children and not have families. And people like Miss Loren are stating, as a matter of fact, that society has some sort of birthing crisis because men are choosing to become losers or something and not getting jobs or whatever. And Shu is pointing out counter evidence, attempting to refute that it's men who are responsible for this. By you basically saying that it makes sense women don't want to have children because pregnancies are hard on their bodies and women are required to do more work, that has nothing to do with the point. The point is that society will always find a way to spin something as being men's fault, even when there is evidence that shows the opposite. Whether or not women have legitimate reasons to not have children has nothing to do with society spinning the birthing crisis or the femme cells not being able to get dates, as men just don't want to have families and children. Like, if you're right, it's fine that women don't want to have children for whatever reason, but you can't also then claim it's men's fault.
Beliefs about what family should look like.
Women, they can stay single and still have friends, whereas men get a lot of their emotional stuff from relationships with women. Their relationship with the woman in their life is their emotional backbone, whereas women can find that in other ways, more easily. You know, obviously, broad terms here. Again, I am in no way saying this as like a negative towards women, that women should be doing something different here. No. Look, there's a free market, guys. There is a free market. And the product men are putting out right now is clearly not something that the market, women, are interested in right now.
Again, I just have to comment that this goes both ways. Why would the marketplace only go one way? I mean, we aren't talking about the MGTOWs here, right? They are definitionally having no interest in dating. I don't know if there's a cutesy acronym on the other side for women, but we also aren't talking about women who are happily choosing to be single and not having families or whatever. If those were the only groups involved, no one would care and it wouldn't be an issue. The reason this is becoming an issue is because there are a group of men who want to be in relationships with women and can't match, and there are a group of women who want to be in relationships with men and can't match. This is what I find so funny about being on the sidelines as a gay man, because the argument you are making would work in the gay sexual marketplace. But in the straight sexual marketplace, having a basic understanding of supply and demand economics shows that it has to cut both ways. If you can say that what men are putting out is not appealing to the market, you also have to say and acknowledge that what women are putting out is not appealing to the market as well. Because in the straight sexual marketplace, in order to have a transaction, both a man and a woman have to agree to it and come together. By definition, if men aren't able to, quote, buy these women, and people are remaining single when they don't want to, the women do not have the sexual marketplace value that they believe they have, and they are overpricing themselves. These women think that they are worth, like $7, when in reality they are actually worth $3. That's just how supply and demand works. And that concludes my thoughts on Dima's video. I'll reiterate that I also grow worried about how many young straight guys are gravitating towards the Tates and the Sneakos and the Pearls. I just worry that leftists and neolibs, and also to a certain extent conservatives and neocons, are not handling the situation well, because they don't understand the reason why a lot of impressionable Zoomers are gravitating towards these more male-oriented spaces that they're naturally more comfortable in, and that give them the opportunity to form authentic male-coded relationships. I see all sides just writing off these audiences, along with the not-so ideologically hard-coded figureheads like Joe Rogan and Asmongold as just inherently bad, basket of deplorable types. And I worry that it's going to have the effect of allowing these subcultures to become more and more radicalized. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this response video.